Welcome to Like Mother, Like Murder. I am Rachel.
And I'm Heather.
We bring you the good,
The badass,
and the crime.
This is Like Mother, Like Murder.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Like Mother, Like Murder.
Welcome to the third time of us doing this intro because we are amazingly professional podcasters.
It's so true, and with that professionalism and being amazing comes a lot of us laughing hysterically the entire time we try to do things.
Y'all, we have legit been
you
on the computer with each other for 45 minutes now, just
clapping
and figuring out life, just figuring out this podcast life.
What's up, Heather? What are you doing over there? Hi, hello, howdy.
I am chilling in this heat wave of a freaking September. Are you joking me? It's September.
Are you joking me?
I am so just not ready for it because let me just get the latest. Today's high 103. Tomorrow's high 109. 109.
It's beautiful.
They should just shut everything down when it gets that degrees so people can just stay home and just sit in an ice box because that's just unbearable.
I don't miss that. I don't miss that at all. Especially having to work outside in it. That is not
I feel
something.
So that reminds me, I want to put something out for my mail carrier today. Just what do you suggest? Just like a big block of ice?
Yeah. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. That'll be melted before they get there.
I know.
By the way.
Well, she usually comes right around noon, 1 o'clock. So I can just make sure I put it out closer to that time. And I also feel bad because I know we're having always ice bottles. Okay. Yeah. I will do that because this is absolutely redonkulous. It's so bad.
It is. And I'll just show you. So today's 80. And the rest of the forecast for this week is low 80s and high 70s. So
that sounds beautiful.
It's pretty beautiful.
That sounds amazing. Ugh. Yeah. Ugh. This place sucks.
It is very hot out there.
And
right
actually, this is very apropos because our case today is also based in the Valley, and it sucks. So this is all coming full circle. Basically,
I'm eager to get into it because you guys, Heather took a field trip.
I did.
So I am eager to hear everything that she has to say. Before that, though, I know. Wait, did you tell me you were making a drink earlier? Did you make a drink?
I did.
What did you make?
I think a few weeks ago, I told you about this Trader Joe's apple cider vinegar drink that I have been really digging lately. And I love it. I still like it. I was at Trader Joe's yesterday and I bought some more. And it's great. They're only $2 a can. So it's not even you're spending $5, anything like that. But I decided, I was like, you know what? Because the can says it has 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar. And the things that I have been reading online say 2 tablespoons is ideal. And then I also read this thing that said before you have a meal, having kind of a vinegary, something about the enzymes or whatever helps get your digestion rolling. So I said, okay, I'm going to start doing apple cider vinegar drinks throughout the day, but I obviously don't want to drink this whole can before every meal. So what I did was I have my apple cider vinegar. I have my, what is the name of it? I always just call it a
coffee.
It carbonates the water. Soda stream. I have my Soda stream.
A zhuzh. Everyone else knew what that was. I don't have one of those. That's why I was like, a coffee? What's a zhuzh?
So I have that because I like the carbonation in the water. And then I was at Trader Joe's and it's like a juice tea drink. It has like hibiscus tea and some, pomegranate juice and it looked really good. So I've been mixing the carbonated water, and 2 tablespoons of my apple cider vinegar. And I really like it.
Nice. I love that. That's awesome. I have ice water.
That is something needed. I mean, I should probably also be having ice water, seeing as it's already 95 degrees outside and it's 10 o'clock in the morning where I'm at. So great.
Yeah, I went out on the water for 3 hours this morning, and when I got home, I made a huge salad, and now I'm having ice water. As soon as we are done recording, though, I do need more coffee. I wish that I would have had a coffee prepared for the recording, but I do not, and that is okay. We will get through.
We will get through, because you won't need coffee when I start talking about this case. I promise you that.
I'm excited for it. All right, get into our promo so that you can start telling me all about it.
Okay, so this week I really want to shout out. We do it all the time. We even talked about it on our last episode briefly. Crime Over Wine, Liam Collins. You guys all know him. You all love him. He is back and doing the damn thing. I have been so enjoying listening to his Wine Wednesdays again. And I'm just excited, very, very excited to have him back. So now every week you can get double doses of Crime Over Wine. You can listen to your Wine Wednesdays with Liam. And of course, Crime Over Wine Weekly, which drops on Mondays.
Mondays with Michelle.
Michelle. So definitely go check out Crime Over Wine. And in case you also need just a little dose of Liam's wonderfully beautiful voice, here's a quick little promo.
Hello, everybody. This is Liam Collins, the host of the podcast Crime Over Wine, and I'm about to make your Wine Wednesdays so much better. We know that there is nothing better than hanging out and listening to your favorite true crime podcast over your favorite bottle of wine, and that's where we come in. Every week, we share a new head-scratching true crime story while reviewing your new favorite bottle of wine. So your new true crime adventure is waiting for you. Crime Over Wine drops new episodes every Wednesday, wherever you get your podcasts.
As I head out of my neighborhood, I make a right on the main street and drive east for about 2 miles. Right off of this main road is one of those little inlets where it's kind of a little street next to a bigger street. There's a typical ranch-style home that I've come to expect in a valley with some interesting stonework on the front of the house, a double front door, and one of those really nice, almost floor-to-ceiling windows that I've always wanted, because my grandparents had one, and you could always see their Christmas tree through that window when you'd pull up for the holidays. You wouldn't expect that almost 42 years ago, at this typical San Fernando Valley home, would be the last place that an entire family would ever be seen. In 1971, Elaine was 28 years old. She was divorced with a 4-year-old daughter named Michelle. And down in Hollywood at a bar one night, she met her future husband, Salomon. He was an Israeli immigrant who had recently come to LA. He was 24 years old, and he was driving a taxi and selling encyclopedias to get by. Gotta love the 80s.
Yeah. You do what you gotta do.
You do what you gotta do. They fell in love and moved to a little condo in Reseda where they had a son, Mitch. As the family outgrew the Reseda condo, they moved to Northridge, right to the heart of the San Fernando Valley, and to that typical ranch-style home with the stonework on the front. Once they were in Northridge, the couple settled in nicely, constantly surrounded by friends and family. Elaine had brown eyes and dyed blonde hair, and Saul was a tall man, kind of big, and wore a dark brown wig.
Okay.
I mean, it's the 80s. They didn't have hair plugs and such.
No Rogaine.
No Rogaine, apparently. So Saul didn't stay in the taxi/encyclopedia selling business for too long. He ended up starting a company where he would repair and refill fire extinguishers.
Wow.
Which I guess that's like a necessity when you think about it, but
Right.
I never even really heard of that before.
We need to ask April when. I have no idea. Maybe
Yes.
you know this answer, but I was going to say, when do those expire? Like, when do I need to refill or change that? Because guess what? Whatever's in the downstairs garage, I don't know how long it's been there.
You're right, because we bought a set of fire extinguishers when we first moved into this house. So like almost 8 years ago. And yeah, I don't know. We need to
April,
find
is
out.
it time? Tell us, is it time? Does everyone else know this and we just don't know?
I bet you it's on the box of the fire extinguisher that it like my fire extinguisher is still in the box.
No, that's what they teach everyone on Senior Ditch Day is how long you keep your fire extinguishers. And I miss that.
Well,
day.
we miss that. We miss that. That and taxes and how to buy a house and all that fun stuff.
Actual things I need. Okay.
So to the outside eye, this fire extinguisher business seemed to be pretty lucrative because in addition to their nice home in the valley, they also had a large swimming pool in the back. They had a big screen TV. Remember, this is the 80s, so it's not like everyone had a big screen TV. They had a VCR. They had a baby grand piano. They drove nice cars, a Mercedes-Benz and a Rolls-Royce.
Wow.
But all of this would come crashing to an abrupt halt in October of 1982.
1982.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So on the night of Tuesday, October 12th, 1982, the Salomon family was hanging out at their house. Elaine's parents were over visiting, and around 6 p.m., the dad, Saul, said that he was going to meet his friend and business partner, Harvey Rader, at a car auction. So Harvey owned a car business called Mr. Motor, and from what I can gather, basically they would like buy cars at auction, fix them up, and sell them. And supposedly Saul had invested $20,000 into this endeavor. So again, that fire extinguisher business must have been pretty good, popping.
Yeah, because she wasn't working.
She wasn't. No,
she wasn't working. So
she had a volunteer job. So yeah, she was not working.
Okay.
And they had 2 kids.
This is crazy. All right.
So Saul left and the rest of the family continued to hang out. And around 10:30 that night, Elaine's parents left. So grandma and grandpa left. And then Elaine was on the phone with a friend around 11 p.m. when she told the friend, hey, I got to go. I got to get off the phone. Saul's friend, Harvey Rader, is at the door. This is the last time someone would speak to anyone from the Salomon family. So as I mentioned, this house had a pool. And on the evening of Wednesday, October 13th, a neighbor of the Salomons actually calls another neighbor because their pool was overflowing into her backyard. Whoa. And this neighbor, like this kind of backyard neighbor, she didn't actually know them very well, but she knew another person in the neighborhood who did. So she called them and she said, hey, their pool is overflowing. Can you, figure this out for me?
Know.
I don't really know them.
Yeah.
So this neighbor, she walked over to the Salomons to check on the house because when she called them, no one answered the phone.
Okay.
They found that the front door was locked and the house was dark. Nobody answered the door, but the Rolls Royce was in a driveway and Saul was Saul's work van that he used for his fire extinguisher business. The Benz was missing though.
Okay. So no Benz.
No Benz.
And an overflowing pool.
That's right. And Mish Mish, the family dog, was also still there. Mm-hmm. So these neighbors, they walked into the backyard. It was completely flooded. Someone had left a hose in the pool and it was overflooding. Mish Mish was back there and nobody could be reached. The neighbor, they couldn't find anyone at home. They couldn't get anyone on the phone. So she started calling some of the other friends and family. And eventually she got a hold of Elaine, the mom. She got a hold of Elaine's cousin, Doreen. Doreen had actually been by the house earlier to drop some things off and thought it was weird that no one was there, but she just dropped the stuff off on the side yard and left. So some more asking around, and they found out that Elaine had never shown up to her volunteer job that day.
Okay.
And neither of the kids, so Michelle was 14, Mitchell was 9.
Didn't go to
neither of them
school.
had been to school that day.
Uh-oh.
So at this point, the police are called, and they gain entry into the home after urging from the husband of Elaine's cousin, Doreen. So at first they're like, oh, like they're probably just gone. They'll be back any minute. But Elaine's cousin, Doreen, was like, no, like if they were going somewhere, we would know about it.
Yeah, something was off. She knew.
Something was off. So they gained entry into the home. And like I said, everything was still locked, but Doreen's husband showed them how they could get in through a window in the back. So they got in the house. Everything was still locked. The burglar alarm hadn't been activated. Now, the first red flag that something was really wrong was when Elaine's cousin Doreen found out that the beds were made in the primary bedroom. And Doreen knew something was up because she said Elaine never made the beds.
Man.
I love
Everyone
how that's
needs to
something
make their
she knows
beds.
about her cousin. Like, it's so funny because, like, so if I walked into my grandparents' house back in the day and a bed wasn't made, I would know something was up.
Right.
And so, because like my grandparents were like, you always make your bed.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. That's why I said what I said, where I was like, you need to make your bed. But it's actually, so in the case that I'm going to be telling you tomorrow, I talk a lot about routine and how important that is when looking into disappearances or anything crime related, and how routine is such a big thing.
Yeah.
And if something's off, something's off. And so right here, Doreen already knows that.
Doreen knows. She goes, she would never make the bed. She would never make the bed. And so that is just so interesting. And you just got to love that her cousin, like one article I read said that they were basically like sisters. They would talk like every day. And so you just love that she, and, you know, her and her husband, Marty, they end up playing, you know, more of a role in the story. And they, you know, you could tell just like the amount of love she has for her cousin, because she knew off the bat. She goes, no, that's not something Doreen would do.
Oh, man.
So it wouldn't take long for some other red flags, some bigger, scarier red flags to surface. As the detectives continued to search the house, they found that the bed in Michelle's room was actually broken, and all of the pillowcases and sheets and bedspreads, they were all gone. So it was just a broken bed with no sheets on it. They also found blood droplets on her mattress and on the walls in her room.
Super weird.
And this part is just like gives you the creepiest vibes.
Skip it.
A small patch of carpet had been cut up right out of the ground.
Oh yeah, that's a huge problem.
Yeah.
So okay, so many red flags.
So many red flags that the police still just label it a missing persons case.
So many red flags.
Even though they find the blood and everything, they just, it's missing persons.
I mean, some of them might be missing, but there's definitely something else going on there, and
there's
a reason that they're missing.
Here,
so
clearly.
exactly.
Yes. So Harvey Rader quickly became a person of interest. Obviously, he was the last person to see Saul, because remember,
I forget who he
Saul,
is, the business partner.
He's
kidding.
the business partner,
Okay.
Right? Him and Saul had gone to the car auction the night before. The family mysteriously disappeared. And remember, this is the same business partner that was allegedly at the door when Elaine was on the phone with her friend and said, hey, I gotta go. Harvey's at the door.
Okay.
So police track him down. They questioned him the very next day. He told police that, yes, I'd been at the car auction with Saul the night before, and afterwards I dropped Saul off at an Israeli restaurant down on Ventura Boulevard. Then he said he went back to the Solomon's house to drop off the work van and pick up the Mercedes because it needed repairs.
So he had the Mercedes.
So
and
he
that's
had
why
the Mercedes. Mm-hmm.
the
And it's kind of giving him a
Rolls
reason
Royce
as
and
to
the
why
van.
he showed up at 11 at night with, at their house where Elaine was like, hold on, Harvey's at the door.
But I'm saying that, yeah. So because he took it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I was going to say, how
Yeah.
the work van and the Rolls Royce were in the
Right.
driveway, but not the Benz. He had it.
Exactly.
Okay.
He had
Right.
it.
Following.
Yeah. Yep. So while he was being questioned, he also slipped in there that that night Saul said that they should go meet some sex workers down in Hollywood. But being the stand-up gentleman Harvey was, he declined.
Oh.
Harvey also told police that Saul liked to go to strip clubs over on Sepulveda Boulevard and that Saul was illegally selling Uzis, automatic handguns, revolvers, and transporting them in his work vans.
Okay, so I see a lot of dollar signs there for this house that you were talking about that I don't think
Yes.
fire extinguishers pay for.
Exactly.
But also, like, dang, this guy was quick to throw him under the bus. That's for sure.
I know.
Well, he's trying to clear his name, obviously, and
Exactly.
get out of whatever, but strip clubs and automatic handguns. All right.
Yeah.
What could
Yeah.
go wrong?
What could go wrong? A lot.
Oh.
So obviously, like you said, Rader was painting a not so positive picture of Saul Solomon, but he himself was no saint. So through the course of all this, they find out that Rader had ties to not one, not two, but 3 unsolved missing persons cases around the valley. And this included a couple who lived about 2 miles down the street from the Solomon family.
You live 2 miles away from
I
the
live 2
Salomon
miles down the
family,
street from the
but
Solomon
I
family.
see you. You're not missing. Okay.
I'm not.
Right.
I'm here.
You're not one of
I
them.
also wasn't
Sounds good.
alive in 1980s, but that's okay.
True. There's that part too, guys.
So not only this, but Rader, was actually from England. He had a really long rap sheet back in England, and he'd been to prison like 9 times. And when he had come to the US, he actually had been involved in this pretty infamous fire fraud theft scandal down in like Beverly Hills area that involved a Saudi sheikh named Mohammed Al-Fassi. So say what you will about Saul Solomon, but Harvey Rader obviously also not in the best businesses, it seems.
Yeah, he doesn't seem like a stand-up guy either, but I just need to know everything that's going on now. Oh,
Well,
why do all
and-
of these names sound so familiar to me?
I don't know.
This is so weird. Okay, keep going.
I know they have covered this case. I first heard about this case on My Favorite Murder like several years back. So maybe you maybe heard it there.
No, just the Harvey guy.
Harvey Rader. Well, he literally had his
There's
name.
so many things that he's tied into.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Wow. Okay.
So not only, right, is his history very questionable, but they started being able to kind of poke some holes in his story that he gave about October the 12th. So, for example, the Israeli restaurant that he supposedly dropped Saul off at before heading back to his house to switch the cars,
Yes.
it was actually closed that night.
Oh.
Okay.
I mean, get your
And-
alibi straight if you're gonna make up this stuff.
Well,
You're not even a good con man, dude. Like, you suck.
And get
Okay.
this, the car auction that him and Saul had supposedly been to, it ended at 5 p.m. that night.
Oh, sure it did.
And remember that Saul left the house at 6 p.m. to say he was going to the car auction with Harvey Rader. So obviously they both were lying about where they were.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He also gave different accounts of how he got the keys to the Mercedes-Benz, because in one version, he said that he dropped the keys to the van off and then pulled and grabbed the keys to the Mercedes-Benz just from their mailbox. And then in another version, he got them directly from Elaine. But we know from the friend who Elaine was on the phone with, that he did get to the
Go
door
up to the door.
point, right?
Right.
So his story's all over the place. And then about a week after their disappearance, a Caltrans worker found a wallet and some other belongings and personal documents of the Salomons off the freeway about 15 miles north. Now, Rachel, do you know what freeway is about 15 miles north
The 405?
of the valley?
Which one?
Just
Which way?
right past the 405?
The I-5?
On a little bit east of the 405?
The 210? I don't know. Help me.
The 14, girl.
Oh, the 14. To go to my house? Are we
To
on
go
our
to
way
your house. What freeway do you take
Sorry.
north to go from my house to your house?
I'm blocking the Antelope Valley out
Which
of
is
my
fine,
mind.
as you should, because no one needs to be in or around the Antelope Valley
guys,
Freeway, especially not
The 14
in this.
was the only one to where I went. So that should have been such an easy answer.
You literally have blocked it from your memory. That's
Seriously.
okay. So yes, none other than the 14, the Antelope Valley Freeway. So once they found these documents, they did reclassify it from a missing person case to a homicide.
Okay.
And around this same time, the LA's police chief actually held a press conference to talk about the case. And, you know, he said that they were going through things, and there was two big kind of quotes, I guess you could say, that came out of this that I found really interesting. Well, the first one is, he said, when they were asking about the blood that had been found in Michelle's room, he said that, and this is a quote, "It was more blood than I would want to lose."
Wow.
I feel like it's telling, but it's also a little insensitive. I mean, you're talking about a 14-year-old girl. Like,
Right.
come on, man. And then he also said that the LAPD's detectives had been aware, quote, aware of Saul. Now, that's a little, not very clear kind of what is he talking about. So there were rumors, or maybe some not so much rumors, right, that Saul was connected to what they called back in the 80s the Israeli mafia.
Okay.
So apparently it wasn't just Saul's business partner, Harvey Rader, who had told the cops about his involvement with guns, but a childhood friend of Michelle's who lived right down the street, was there when the family disappeared. She wrote a really, really amazing article, which I got a lot of this information from, and I will definitely link it in the show notes. But she wrote this really amazing article about the disappearance of this family. And she remembers that one time when she was a kid, her dad came home. He had been hanging out with Saul. He was pretty shaken up because Saul had shown him several of the Uzis that he was selling.
Uzis. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So again, like you said, no wonder they could really afford what they could afford.
Yeah, you got to always question those people that have the money, and yet their job is fire extinguisher refiller.
Exactly.
No, sir.
Exactly.
Not that I've ever heard of that, and I don't know what they make.
Maybe it was a thing in the 80s. I don't know. 70s, 80s. So even though some of the family and friends, they knew that Saul may have been mixed up with some not so above board endeavors, they did continue to fight for answers for this family. It even got to a point where they were placing ads in Mexican newspapers offering a $10,000 reward for information.
Okay.
So the family was fighting, and they were also doing a little bit of the police's job, because at one point the police had actually asked Doreen she herself to go to Harvey Rader's car business to see if the family's Mercedes-Benz was there. And they told her that, hey, if it is there, you should just go ahead and bring it to the CSI unit. What in the...
No, that doesn't shock me as much as maybe like I feel like it's shocking you, because they use like different people to get information and
Yeah, but
whether it's a wiretap or whatever, they're always inserting different people into scenarios.
You are correct there. You are correct. But the problem is that Doreen was very suspicious that car was involved somehow in the crime. Harvey Rader picked up the car. It ends up back at his shop, right? There's no other cars missing. Where did the family go? Okay. So she believes that that car was definitely involved.
Right.
So if there's an idea that car is evidence. Exactly. Yeah. So what's worse that they sent a civilian to go pick up evidence as they never even ran forensics on the car.
Well, the cops were being paid off by Harvey and Sal, so
probably.
That's why they didn't even want the car. That's why they're like, yeah, if you can get it, that's cool.
I know,
after she gets it and she brings it back, they're like, no, you could keep it.
Yeah, seriously. The other thing that happened was Doreen and Marty, right? They are kind of taking care of the family's house, their kind of business. They're doing things for the family in hopes that this family will return. But after they had been gone for more than a year, Doreen and Marty were getting the house prepared to sell it because the family still hadn't returned.
Yeah.
And they found massive blood stains under the children's beds.
Oh my God.
That apparently the police had never seen during their initial investigation.
Did they have to like pull up carpet or like do that kind of stuff? Or was it just plain sight? Like
I don't know. That's a good question. But if they found it, I mean, we know that carpet. So this is my thing. Like, we know that carpet got cut out of the floor. Literally carpet cut out of the floor, which is just like you walk into a house and you see a missing piece of carpet. Like, that's so freaking creepy. So wouldn't you think? I need to look at the rest of this carpet.
Yes.
Anyway, so the family, especially like Doreen and Marty, God bless them, they're not only finding evidence that the police have missed, they're bringing evidence to the police in the form of the Mercedes-Benz. But of course, the family, including Elaine's mom, so grandma to Michelle, they also hired a private investigator to find out more about Harvey Rader. So one investigator went all the way to England, because remember, Harvey's from England, and he tracked down one of Rader's cousins, Ashley Paul.
Okay.
This Ashley Paul guy had also been in LA area, around this time. So they track him down. And after some prompting, he did eventually give a statement to the local police over in England, to Scotland Yard. And he said he wanted immunity. And in return, he would go to LA. He would help the LAPD with the case. And he would even show them where the bodies were.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's a lot more detail when it comes to this Ashley Paul guy, but I don't want to get into it. It's all just kind of ridiculous. But basically, he wanted immunity. He would show them where the bodies were buried. So over a year after the disappearance. So now remember, they disappeared October 1982. We're now in November of 1983. Harvey Rader's cousin, Ashley Paul, comes to the U.S. He tells police his story. He tells the LAPD that Harvey Rader had murdered the Salomons and disposed of their bodies, and that he himself, Ashley Paul, had helped bury them.
Okay. All
so
right.
He, along with the LAPD, they go out to that wonderful stretch of freeway, the 14. The same freeway, right, where they found some of the belongings a year ago, right around Acton.
Oh, gosh.
And they go searching for the bodies.
Yeah.
But the cousin is not able to find the spot.
Okay.
It's almost like a wild goose chase here.
And he was saying he was actively one that dug and buried. So
correct.
He would know
he
the
said
spot.
He witnessed the murder. He witnessed
how long ago, or what was the time frame, like between
a year
the murders? 1 year. So 83. That's what you said, November of 83. Okay. Yeah, no, this guy's full of shit.
Right? What's even more full of shit is that he couldn't find it. They were trying to get statements from him. They had him take polygraphs. He failed. Now, we know polygraphs are not, whatever, but they gave him 4 polygraph tests. I think it was 4. He failed all of them. So not only is his statements not lining up, his statements keep changing throughout the course of talking to Scotland Yard and LAPD and the multiple questionings. The story kept changing. He can't find the bodies. There's nothing. So they have nothing, but they still tried to arrest Harvey Rader, which, like, I get it, but, like, you have nothing. So they arrest him and then they have to let him out.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they have no evidence, right? And then at one point, Harvey Rader actually ends up going back to England. And then they try to arrest Ashley Paul, the cousin, instead. And they said that he broke his immunity deal. They say he violated it because they're pretty sure he's lying about his involvement in the disappearance, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And so they're trying to pin it on him. But then a court judge looks at the statements and says his whole statement should be thrown out. There was some evidence that he was kind of pushed into making a statement. And they said that his immunity deal, the way that it was worded, was also crap. And so the whole thing gets thrown out and they let Ashley Paul go. And then he just goes back to England as well.
All right.
So at this point, the lead suspect, Harvey Rader, the last person to see anyone from this family alive, is not being prosecuted for the murders. Although he did manage, like I said, to get himself into trouble. He had gone back to England. Some stuff had happened. He tried to get back into the United States, but he was using something like passport fraud. Like he was lying to get back into the United States. He ends up in jail here in the U.S. Okay. Ashley Paul is back in England. He's not being prosecuted for anything. And then, long story short, in 1989, they again do charge Harvey Rader with the murder. And he does go to trial this time. Now, I don't know all of the ins and outs because they did not find any more evidence in the last, 6 years. But they charge him with murder. It goes to trial. Again, there's a lot more detail that goes into this, but I do not want to make this case about Harvey Rader.
Okay.
This case is about the disappearance of a mother, a father, and 2 children. But I will say that Harvey Rader ended up at trial 3 separate times for the murder of the Salomon family. Yeah.
Is he still there?
I will let you know. You're going to be so mad.
I'm already mad. I just stay mad. All right.
Stay mad. So the first trial ended in a hung jury. They could not unanimously decide on whether or not he did it. The second one ended in a mistrial. And then in 1992, the third and final trial, the jury's verdict came back not guilty.
Okay.
So
I don't have a lot to say on that.
Yeah. I mean, they don't have a lot of evidence.
Right.
They don't have physical evidence. They don't have the bodies. They don't have a murder weapon. All they have is blood at the crime scene. Right. And a lot of people's kind of he said, she said statements that they're not really able to verify a lot of. Right. So years later, one of the last people to see her alive on the night of October 12th, right, was Elaine's mother. And she was interviewed by Michelle's childhood friend. Remember, she lived right down the street.
Yeah,
she wrote this amazing article.
Yes,
exactly. So she interviewed Elaine's mom, Michelle's grandma. And according to Elaine's mom, she believed that the disappearance of this family was all Saul's fault. She said that Elaine was not happy in the marriage and that Saul not only slept with sex workers, which remember, Harvey also threw him under the bus and said that, right? but his unsavory business dealings was the reason that the family was murdered. So Elaine told all of this Elaine's mom told all of this to that family friend, Michelle's friend. And according to, Elaine's mom, Elaine had confessed all of this to her not long before the family actually disappeared. And that Elaine was actually having an affair herself and wanted to leave Saul.
Okay.
But apparently grandma kind of reminded her, like, hey, look, Saul can provide for this family. I guess this new boyfriend was pretty broke. He could not provide for the family. And so she kind of, pushed her to stay with Saul for the family, even though she knew her daughter wasn't happy and Saul was not like the best guy. And she says, obviously, that she feels guilty that's what
I'm sure that eats her alive every single day.
Mm-hmm. So throughout the years, other rumors, right, swirled around, including that whole idea that he was involved with the Israeli mafia and that he sold illegal guns. But like I said, to this day, there's no bodies that have been found. There's no other evidence. Nobody knows where Saul, Elaine, Michelle, and Mitchell ended up. So this whole family has pages on the Charlie Project website. And if you guys haven't heard of the Charlie Project, it basically, it's kind of just a repository. It doesn't investigate anything, but you can go to their website and they have tens of thousands of cold cases of missing persons. And that's kind of
where it stands.
Yep, that's where it stands. I know this case is over 40 years old, but here's the thing. I have wanted to cover this case for a long time because I first heard about it not too long after I did move to the Valley. I did not realize how close this really was to me. I mean, I know it's not like the Valley is a huge place, but this place is so close. I literally drive by their house when I go to my office. Right by their house.
Oh,
so,
man.
Like I said, I know it's a really old case, but I also know we have a lot of listeners in Southern California, and a lot of those are right here in the Valley. So if you know anything about the disappearance of the Salomon family, you can contact the Los Angeles Police Department, 877-275-5273. Because it doesn't matter how old the case is, everyone deserves answers.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I can't help but start thinking of way too many possibilities in my head. And I don't know why, I also wonder, is it something where did he flee? Is he gone?
Yeah, and definitely a theory
he's been
that
able
people
to
have.
go and live this other life this entire time somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
Also, 82 was before all of the DNA. How have they not been able to utilize all of these things, whether it was from the carpet, anything in the home? I mean, even the hose going into the pool, why was that overflowing? Like, what kind of DNA could they have pulled from that? And then the car itself, do you know, has any of that been touched afterwards?
So first of all, they didn't even run forensics on the car ever, which is ridiculous. Apparently, they did try to dig up so like I said, Harvey Rader, he had his business, and they did dig up basically his car lot to search for bodies. They didn't find it. They obviously, but they didn't find anything there. They have continued to search around the 14 freeway. One investigator is pretty sure that the documents and the wallet and stuff that were found scattered along the side of the freeway were planted.
Okay.
there
To throw them off somewhere
to throw
else.
them off. So if they are buried, he thinks they're buried somewhere else. But yeah, there's not, and this is the thing, because the blood that was found, however, like a year later, a year after the family was disappeared, because it was found later, and because it was also found not by forensics, I don't know, or not by authorities, I don't know if they ever ran forensics on it. It's clearly this case, and like you said, this was before DNA, but this was still 82. So fingerprints were still a thing. Basic forensics were still a thing. Blood typing, at least. Even if you couldn't DNA, you could get a blood type. Like all of
to
these,
see if it was the families and
exactly.
just that kind of
all
stuff.
of these were things that had happened, like, or that could have happened back in the day. But did they happen?
No.
It doesn't seem like it. And the crazy thing is this case was pretty big. A whole family just vanishes.
Right.
And the connections to, these other criminal enterprises and this, that, and the other, like, it was a pretty, like, this is a well-known case back in the day, and still nothing. And it's just, it makes me, and Rachel was literally, I was FaceTiming her when I was driving around trying to find this house, and I hung up with her, and a few minutes later, I found the house. And I texted her, and I just had like full body chills knowing that, okay, maybe it was 40 years ago, but like, this was their house. This was where they lived. They had full lives right here. And just in the overnight, completely gone. And, I reread the article by Michelle's childhood friend so many times. It's such a good article. You guys definitely need to read it. Like I said, it's where I got a lot of my information. But it just also goes to show, like, this valley is small. And there are people who have been living here for 40 years and will probably continue. So, like, that, someone knows something.
Right.
Someone knows something. And I just don't know how someone can sit with the guilt of a whole family for 40 years.
They're afraid of whoever it was, it seems to me, because,
yeah,
I mean, it's not okay. You need to come forward. But from what you have said, it's very obvious that Harvey and Sal and Ashley, all of them, like, they have this other world.
They're involved
that they
in
live
some,
in.
exactly.
Yeah, and so
yeah,
certain other people, they don't want to speak up. And there's ways to do it anonymously, you guys. You got to do it. You got to come forward. And if there weren't back there, back in the day when this happened and you didn't want to come forward thinking that it would fall back on you, guess what? Now there are ways that you can come forward and say something,
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you were afraid then and you don't need to be anymore. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But
it's never too late. I mean, you guys know that whenever we talk about cold cases being solved and beating all the odds, like we talk about Heidi and we talk about, her mom, Loretta Jones, and just the nonstop fight to find answers. And I mean, that case, just as old. So
right, yeah,
when it was solved,
years, right?
So
damn, that is crazy, Heather. What a wild, wild, wild story. And now I need to go look at these people's faces because not
they
even
are
just
such
Harvey,
a sweet looking family.
Like,
honestly, if you look at
familiar.
there's plenty of like family pictures that you can find online, and there's even a picture of Saul and Elaine with Doreen and her husband, and they look like a fun, kind of typical fun family. Now, obviously, I think there was definitely evidence there that Saul was doing some shit under the table. Right. Yeah. Like, they even at one point looked into his obviously into his money, and they were like, okay, this fire extinguisher business brings in only this much a year. There ain't no way
Right.
this family is affording all this extra stuff. But, I think it's still very clear that he still, I think, loved his family. So, but then I go back and forth about like all of the things that he slept around, and he liked strip clubs.
Well, also, the wife, the mom was as well. And so it's one of those things too, where you need to just trust your gut. And if you're feeling unsafe, if you're feeling like things are not okay, you got to trust that and you got to get out of it.
Mm-hmm.
You do. And guess what? Money holds a lot of people captive.
Yep.
And it's hard to leave money.
Yeah.
Guess what? You need
it's
to.
It's harder if you aren't alive. So let's,
there's that.
Think about that.
That's a great quote to end on. Thank you for that. Wow. That's wild. Next time I come out there now, I'm going to drive by that house too.
I will show it
No,
to
maybe
you.
I won't. I don't even remember where the
honestly,
is.
And that's what's so crazy is like I said, I literally have driven by this house. Lord knows how many times since I've lived here. It's literally right down the street. It's off of like a pretty main street that I drive all the time. And it's a nice looking house. Like I said, very typical of what you'd see out here. And I pulled up the picture from the article and I looked at the house and I was like, this is it. And I got full body chills. It was crazy.
For sure. Well, good job, Heather. Well done.
Thank you.
Crazy story. I know that you said this was, I feel like when you and I were talking before, you were like, mine's a little lighter. That's not light.
Well,
that's not light. There's
I know
4 people
it's not
missing.
Light. It's not light.
Yeah, I guess you don't get into the brutal and stuff like that. So I guess I get it in a sense, but
I know when I say lighthearted, it's never actually that light, right?
I mean, it's a true crime podcast, so that makes sense.
Yeah,
that makes sense. All right, sounds good. We will talk to you guys next week, next Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
It is,
and until then, just enjoy the amazing audio that is flowing through your ears because it's perfect now. We spent so much time perfecting it. Chef kiss.
Chef's kiss. All right, talk to you guys next week. Okay, love you. Bye.
Okay, love you. Bye.